Good afternoon everyone. Today we will discuss about the double circulation. So previous day I have already told you what is double circulation. Means in our body there is two type of circulation occurs. You know, the one is left side, another is right side. From the pulmonary veins to the left atrium to left ventricle to all parts of the body, oxygenated blood spread, and from the body the deoxygenated blood from the ventricles, right ventricle to right atrium to pulmonary artery goes to the lungs. So these two pathway occurs in the same body, so that's why it is called Shubho Vijaya Shukanna. It is known as the double circulation. As mentioned earlier, the blood pumped by the right ventricle enters the pulmonary artery. First one, the pulmonary artery, where is the left ventricle pumps the blood into the aorta. The deoxygenated blood pumped into the pulmonary artery is passed on the lungs, from where the oxygenated blood is carried by the pulmonary veins into the left atrium. Okay, so first the deoxygenated blood goes to the lungs and oxygenated blood through the pulmonary veins goes to the left atrium. The pathways constitute the pulmonary veins into the left pulmonary circulation. The oxygenated blood entering to the tissue, from where deoxygenated blood is collected by a system of venules. That is the circulatory system. Oxygenated blood goes to the every parts of the body and deoxygenated blood goes to the different lungs for the purification. The oxygenated blood entering the aorta is carried by a network of arterioles, capillaries and tissue, from where network of arterioles capillaries from where the deoxygenated blood is collected by a veins and vena cava and emptied into the atrium. You know that only pulmonary artery and pulmonary veins are exception, but all the atrium contain deoxygenated blood, all the veins contain atrium contain oxygenated blood, all the veins contain deoxygenated blood, but only pulmonary veins contain deoxygenated blood, pulmonary artery contains just opposite deoxygenated blood. So that's why the pulmonary veins carry the oxygenated blood to the left atrium to left ventricle, then the normal arteries that present in our body. Through these arteries, these oxygenated blood spread all over the arteries, arterioles, capillaries, spread all over the body parts. And from the body parts, the deoxygenated blood that is goes to the veins, capillaries and goes to the right ventricle, then right atrium, then through the pulmonary artery goes to the lungs. This is the normal circulatory pathway. This is the systematic circulation. Systematic circulation provides nutrients, O2 and other essential substances to the tissue and takes CO2 and other harmful substances away for elimination. A unique vascular connection exists between the digestive tract and liver called hepatic portal system. The hepatic portal vein carries blood from the intestine to the liver before it is delivered to systematic circulation. A basal coronary system of blood vessels is present in our body exclusively for the circulation of blood to and from the cardiac musculature. So there is another ventricular system, blood vascular system is present, that is spread throughout the liver. Hepatic means that is associated with the liver. So there is hepatic portal system are present. A basal coronary system of blood vessels is also present, that is blood exclusively for the circulation of the blood to and from cardiac musculature. Coronary, that is obviously related to the cardiac system. So these basal vascular systems are present in the cardiac coronary system. So that's why that is the blood spread throughout only the cardiac musculature system. Regulation of cardiac activity. Which part of the body's automatic contraction, relaxation of the heart occurs? This circulatory pathway maintained. Who maintain that? Obviously by our brain. Normal activities of the heart are regulated intrinsically, auto-regulated by specialized muscles. Hence the heart is called myogenic. Okay. A basal neural central in the medulla oblongata. So the medulla oblongata of the brain control the heart. Cardiac functions through autonomic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system and medulla oblongata mainly maintain the circulation of the blood and increase the rate of the heartbeat. The strength of the vascular contraction, thereby cardiac output. On the other hand, parasympathetic neural signals decrease the rate of the heart. So, autonomous nervous system increase the rate of the heart and parasympathetic nervous system decrease the rate of the heart. Speed of conduction of action potential and thereby cardiac output. Adrenal medullary hormones can also increase the cardiac output. Adrenal medullary hormones, adrenaline hormones also maintain the cardiac regulation, because you know that when we too much anxious, when too much worried about something, we may be a possibility to get heart attack. So that's why they are the hormones that suppress this type of anxiety or any type of worriness. So that's why it is also helps in the cardiac control. Disease for the circulatory system. So if there is some organ, some effects must be occur. So what is the disease occur due to this in this circulatory system? First one, high blood pressure. High blood pressure, hypertension. The person who tensed too much, worried about anything, they are suffering from the high blood pressure. Hypertension is the term for the blood pressure that is higher than the normal. Normal blood pressure 120/80. But when this is more than that, this person is suffered from the hypertension. Or pumping pressure of 18 Hg of the diastolic or resting pressure. If repeated checks of the blood pressure of an individual is 140 to 90, 140/90 or higher, it shows hypertension. High blood pressure leads to the heart disease and also affect vital organs like brain and kidney. So not only means your heart will be attacked, when any parts organs attack, this is all are interrelated with each other. So the kidney, brain, any parts may be get damaged due to this high blood pressure. So don't think too much. If there is the problem, there is obviously solution. First keep and calm and think twice how could you get rid of this problem. Not take too much tension, you also maybe get in that too much trouble. Okay. Coronary artery disease, that is CAD. Coronary artery disease, often referred to as the atherosclerosis, affects the vessels that supply blood to the heart muscles. It is caused by the deposit of calcium, fat, cholesterol and fibrous tissue, which makes the lumen of arteries narrow. That is the one type of blockage. CAD. What is CAD? Coronary artery disease. When there is fat, cholesterol, when you take so much fast food, the fat things, so this is blocked, that may accumulated in your artery, and you know that the lumen of the artery or narrow, the space of the artery is very narrow. If there is something is attached to this, obviously block the pathway of the artery. So this is known as the CAD. Okay, coronary artery disease. Next one, angina. You called angina pectoris. A symptom of acute chest pain appears when not enough oxygen is reaching to the heart muscles. Angina can occur men and women of any age, but it is more common among the middle-aged and elderly. It occurs due to condition that affects the blood flow. Okay, angioplast, you can listen about that. That is when your heart does not get the sufficient oxygen. From where the heart get oxygen? Through the blood. When the lungs there cannot get the oxygenated blood get inside your heart, that is the starting one of the symptoms of the heart attack. Okay, you may be possibility to that, because there is the sufficient oxygen is not present, the chest pain must be occurred. This is known as the angina pectoris. Okay, next one, heart failure. This is the last stage. Heart failure means the state of the heart when it is not pumping blood effectively enough to meet the needs of the body. So heart failure means that is the normal contraction relaxation occurs, that is slow, decreasing day by day. There is so many cause: blockage, anytime not sufficient oxygen is present, fatigue, cholesterol, that is blockage is present. It's sometimes called congestive heart failure because congestion of lungs is one of the main symptoms of the disease. Lungs is related with the heart because lungs purify the blood. If the patient oxygenated blood does not get reach to the heart, so how could your heart helps to pump and circulate the blood? So that's why heart is associated with the lungs is associated with the heart. So that's why it is known as the congested heart failure. Heart failure is not the same as cardiac arrest when heart stop beating, or heart attack when the heart muscles is suddenly damaged is known as the inadequate bile supply. So three types: heart failure, heart attack, cardiac arrest. Heart failure means heart slowly pumping, decreasing due to sufficient oxygen. Heart attack means totally heart attack means that is heart is also there is the muscles get damaged, muscle not work properly due to the sufficient blood supply. And cardiac arrest means totally heart stop to pumping, that is the death. Okay, so this is up to this is the chapter I have completed. Now we move to the excretory products and their elimination. Okay, you can read that chapter, the double circulation, the heart attack, the cardiac arrest, what is CAD, what is double circulation, different types of the animals have the different circulatory pathway. So you can read this type of question from this part. Now excretory system, excretory product and their elimination. So you know that so many excretory product, undigested food that is present in our body due to some cellular activities, due to taking of the food, but we must be remove your body from this type of toxic material, because either it is accumulated day by day, it is our body function does not occur properly, and it is affects and damage our different body parts. So it is not possible that all toxic material or undigested food you can get rid of one day. No. So day by day there is so many systems are present in our body that helps to remove these materials, excessive material that is too much harmful for our body day by day. Okay, in the form of urine, in the form of stool, so many things. And different animals have their different types of excretory product according to their habitat, according to the availability of the water. Now let's see. Animals accumulate ammonia, urea, uric acid, carbon dioxide, water and ions like Na+, K+, Cl-, phosphate, sulfate, etc. either by metabolic activities or by other means like excess ingestion. Okay, so different types of metabolic cellulose, there is so many functions, biochemical process also occurs inside your body, glycolysis, many things. So these types of materials that is accumulated in your body, you must be removed in the form of the ammonia, calcium, that is excessive deposition occurs in your body, that is harmful for your body. So you must get rid from these materials, and these substances have to be removed totally or partially. In this chapter you will learn the mechanism of elimination this substance with special emphasis on common nitrogenous waste. Ammonia, urea and uric acids are the major form of the nitrogenous waste excreted by the animals. Ammonia is the most toxic form and requires large amount of water for the elimination, whereas uric acid, being least toxic, can be removed with a minimum loss of the water. So availability of the water, ammonia, that is must be all aquatic animals, they release their excretory products in the form of the ammonia, because you know that large amount of the ammonia can get mixed with the less amount of the water, so there is availability of the water present, so they release their excretory product in the form of the ammonia. Birds, lizards, snakes, they are terrestrial animals, there is no availability of the water, and they intake also little amount of the water than the human. Obviously as much as water, 2 liter 3 liter we can get drink, but the birds cannot. So their excretory products are semi solid, not liquid, not solid. Soft part, that is urea, is mixed with the less amount of the water, and they release their excretory products in the form of the uric acid. We human, we can drink availability of the water, so we can release our excretory products in the form of the urine. So availability of the water, the habitat, excreta depends on that the different animals have their lower animals, higher animals, there is so many functions are also present, so many systems are also present. According to this, they have their different types of the excretory product. The process of excreting ammonia is known as amniotelism. So aquatic animals, that is the process by which they release the ammonia, is known as the amniotelism. Many bony fishes, aquatic amphibians, aquatic insects are amniotelic in nature. Ammonia as readily soluble is generally excreted by diffusion across the body surface or through gill surface as ammonium ions. Okay, so ammonia, the aquatic animals, frogs, any types of actually tadpoles, different types of fishes, they release their excretory products in the form of the ammonium ion. This ammonium ion gets soluble with the water and then they release in the form process that is known as the amniotelism, and the animals is known as the amniotelic. So short question, what is amniotelic animals? Give example of one type of amniotelic animals. And diffusion, you know that is the process, there must be a membrane present through which that is the diffusion or passes out of the material. So their skin, gill, these type of things are present through which they can release their ammonia into the water. Terrestrial adaptation necessitates the production of lesser toxic nitrogenous waste like urea and uric acid for conservation of water. Mammals, many terrestrial amphibians and marine fishes mainly excrete urea is called ureotelic animals. Ammonia produced by the metabolism converted into the urea into the liver of these animals and released into the blood, which is filtered and excreted out by the kidneys. So which have the excretory system? We mammals and different types of marine fishes, they can produce urea because their liver is present and their kidney is present, so that's why the ammonia that is get converted into the urea and they release that in the form of the urine or uric acid. Some amount of urea may be retained into the kidney matrix, some of these animals to maintain desired osmolarity. Reptiles, birds, land snails and animals to maintain a desired osmolarity, acid wastage as the uric acid in the form of pellet or paste in the minimum less of water are called ureotelic animals. I have already said you that they release their excretory products in the form of the uric acid because they are the semi-solid form. A survey of animals kingdom present a variety of excretory structure. The most of the invertebrate, these structures are simple tubular forms, whereas vertebrates have the complex tubular organ kidney. We have the excretory system, but the lower organism, they have the simple tubular forms, so they have different types of excretory system. The excretory structure in platyhelminthes, flatworms, planaria, rotifers, same annelids and the cephalochordates, amphioxus, protonephrine are primarily concerned with the ionic and fluid volume regulation, osmoregulation. Nephridia, that is the tubular excretory structure of earthworms and other annelids. Nephridia, so what is the excretory system of platyhelminthes or planaria? Flame cell. Okay, what is the excretory system of annelids or earthworm? That is nephridia. So many different types of lower organism invertebrates have the different types of their excretory system. This is the short question. Cockroaches or insects have the Malpighian tubules. Annelids, antennal glands or green glands perform excretory functions of the crustacean like the prawns. So the platyhelminthes have the flame cells, that is planaria, different types of platyhelminthes, that is the worms like structure. Then the earthworm annelids, they contain nephridia. Then the removal of the nitrogenous, the Malpighian tubule, that is the insect, and the crustaceans like prawns, they have their green gland. Okay, very short type, very important, but very short type question is coming from that. Human excretory system, we know that we have kidneys, ureter, urethra, urinary bladder, which is totally consist to form our excretory system. In human, the excretory system consists of kidneys, one pair of ureters, urinary bladder and urethra. Okay, so kidneys, you know that kidneys, one pair of kidneys that is work as the strainer or the sieving, that is actually filtration occurs. Then ureter is the urinary tract, that is tubular-like structure that join kidneys with the urinary bladder and release the urine from kidney to the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder, that is pouch-like structure that store urine for some times. Okay, urinary bladder. And urethra is the muscular structure that give the pressure to release the urine through the urinary opening. Okay, so this is the structure of our excretory system: kidneys, ureter, urinary bladder and urethra. Kidneys are reddish brown bean-like structure, and structure is situated between the last thoracic cavity and lumbar vertebrae. Okay, so the thoracic cavity, in our thoracic region, you know that here lungs is present. So last thoracic cavity, and that is the our vertebral column, the lumbar vertebrae region. There is the two kidneys are present. They are reddish brown bean-shaped in structure. And they are close to the dorsal side, means our backward side, not in our frontal, ventral sides. Okay. Dorsal inner wall of the abdominal cavity. Each kidney of an adult human measure 10 to 12 cm in length, 5 to 7 cm in width and 2 to 3 cm in the thickness, of average weight of the 120 to 170 gram. Towards the center of the inner concave surface of the kidney is a notch-like hilum, which is ureter. Blood vessels and nerve enters. Then there is, you know that there is the kidney, if there is kidney is present, there is a notch-like structure is formed. That is, this is the notch-like structure from where the ureter, the glomerulus, this type of structure is entered through these notch-like structures. Okay, this is called hilum. This is called hilum. And through the which ureter, blood vessels and nerves enter. Inner to the hilum as a broad funnel shaped called the renal pelvis, that projection called calyces. Okay. So there is a broad structure is present in our structure. There is the crown-like structure here. This is known as renal pelvis. And with projection called calyces, the outer layer of kidney is the tough capsule. Kidney is also covered by membrane, and the inside the kidney there are two zones: outer cortex and inner medulla. This outer side is known as the cortex and inner side is known as the medulla. The inside the kidney, two zones: outer cortex, inner medulla. The medulla is divided into few conical masses, that is medullary pyramid, projecting into the calyces. Okay, so this is the, you know that there is pyramid-like structure is formed. This is known as the medullary pyramids, and this is joined with the calyces. The cortex ends into the between medullary pyramids and renal columns is called the columns of Bettini. Cortex region, that is the medullary region, there is the ending, it is known as the column of the Bettini. Each kidney has nearly 1 million complex of contracts, that so each kidney contains 1 million nephrons. Each nephron has two parts, that is glomerulus and renal tubule. Okay, so you know that nephron structure just like this type of structure, and there is also coil-like structure that is formed, hairpin-like structure, and this type of structure is also present, that is known as the nephron, that is the glomerulus, and this is glomerulus, and this is Bowman capsule, and renal tubules, these total structures. Okay, so renal tubules begins with the renal tubule. Glomerulus has a tough capillary from the network at afferent arteriole, a fine branch renal artery. Blood from the glomerulus is carried out by the efferent. So afferent arteries and efferent arteries, that is the blood carries out throughout the renal tubules. Okay. That renal tubule begins with the double wall cup-like structure, Bowman capsule. Renal tubules, there is formed the cup-like structure. This one is the Bowman's capsule, and Bowman's capsule is called the Malpighian body or renal corpuscles. The tubule contains further to form high coil network, proximal convoluted tubule. This is the highly coiled tubule that is known as proximal convoluted tubule. This part. Then the proximal hairpin-like shape Henle loops is present. Then proximal convoluted tubule form these hairpin-like structures, and the part of which has a descending and the ascending limb. This ascending, this is called descending, this is called ascending, this is called descending. The ascending limb continues another highly coiled tubule, so distal. This is called descending, this is called ascending. Convoluted tubule, that is close to the, and distal tubule, that is away from the nephron. Proximal distal convoluted tubule and proximal convoluted tubule. Distal convoluted tubule nephrons open into the stage tube called collecting duct, mainly which converge and open into the renal pelvis through the medullary pyramid of the calyces. And that is collecting duct, then it is enter into the medulla portion. This portion is present in the cortex region. Okay. The Malpighian corpuscle, proximal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubule of the nephron are situated into the cortical region, and kidney where the loop of Henle deep into the medulla. So this region present in the, when kidney is this type of structure, this present into the cortex region, and this is enter inside the medullary region. In majority of the nephrons, the loop of Henle is too short and extends only very little to the medulla. Sometimes a loop of Henle that is present inside the medulla. Sometimes it is large in size, good inside the medulla. Such nephrons are called cortical nephrons. When the Henle loop present in the cortex region that does not enter into the medullary region, that is known as cortex nephron. When into the gate inside the medullary region, that is known as medullary nephron. In the some nephrons, the loop of Henle very long and runs deep into the medulla. This is known as juxtamedullary nephrons. The afferent arterioles emerging into the glomerulus for a fine capillary network around the renal tubule called the pericardial capillaries. Minute vessels of this network runs parallel to the Henle loops, forming U-shaped vasa recta. Vasa recta is absent or highly reduced into the cortical nephrons. Okay, so this is up to for the today. Next day we will discuss about the urine formation. Bye everyone.